Hi everyone, this is 3.15 due on Thursday, Pile Patterns with Arithmetic Sequences Day 1. So as a quick intro, this unit we've talked about many different ways to write or represent y in y equals mx plus b. For example, we've learned y, of course. We've also learned f of x. We've learned statements like a of m for that movie question, and so on and so forth. All of these things just mean y. Today, we're learning another way to represent y, called a base n. This is used for arithmetic sequences, which are basically patterns that change by adding or subtracting the same number. That sounds awfully familiar. Well, arithmetic sequences are also linear. They're basically a linear pattern of numbers or shapes or patterns. So let's take a look at the first example. We have a base 1, a base 2, a base 3, a base 4. Another thing that these are saying here is basically figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. We've seen this before. Figure 4. What we need to do is write a linear equation, a base n, another way to represent y, to represent the number of blocks in this pattern sequence. So let's take a look. In figure 1, we have 1 block. Figure 2, we have 3 blocks. Figure 3, we got 2, 4, 5. And then figure 4, 2, 4, 6, 7. Great. So let's make a table. I like to organize our information in a table, especially because we're talking about linear relationships. So we're going to call our n, which is basically this small number here, the figure number. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4. And our a base n, which tells us how many blocks there are, or the y, right? And figure 1, we had 1 block. Figure 2, we had 3. Figure 3, we had 5 blocks. And figure 4, we had 7 blocks. Let's take a look at what the pattern is, or the slope. So my change in y, it looks like it's going up by 2. Okay? My change in n, or my change in x, is going up by 1. So my slope is the change in y over the change in x, which is positive 2 over positive 1, which is 2, positive 2. And then I need my y-intercept, and I don't have it here, okay? My y-intercept should be what's in figure 0. Well, to get what's in the y-intercept, I need to go backwards. Go backwards 1. And here I got to go backwards 2, minus 2. 1, go backwards 2, is negative 1. Negative 1. Give me 1 second. Okay, so our y-intercept is negative 1. So my y-intercept is b, which is negative 1. So what I have here is I have an expression. Well, I got to use a base n as my y. So my final equation is a base n equals my slope, 2, times, now not using x, they're telling us to use n. So we got to do 2n and then minus 1, which is our y-intercept. This is the equation for the sequence. So what would it mean for us to find a base 24? How can we find it? Well, by now you should see that this small number here, this base number, is our input, or our x value or n value. And then it's asking us, what is the output when the input is 24? Well, we're going to check that in our equation here. So in my equation, I want to find a base 24, which equals 2. And then I got to plug in everywhere there's an n with 24. So based on the pattern of the sequence, and I substituted 24. 24 times 2 is 48, minus 1 is 47. This tells me that there are 47 blocks in figure 24. There are 47 blocks in figure 24. Okay? Great. So the last piece is the notes. So we've already started talking about each of these pieces. Let's make sure we understand. So a base n is just another way to write y. Okay? And n, that small n, is another way to write the x value, or the input. Okay? Whereas our y means the output. Okay? And there's really nothing beyond this point. I know there's a lot of AKAs, but we can write, well, this is read as a base n, and this n piece is just another way to write our input. So n is our input. Okay? There's nothing really else to write in this last line here. So the last piece is to talk about what this 4 represents. Well, the 4 is right next to the variable n. And we've seen this before in y equals mx plus b. We wrote our equation, a base n equals 2n minus 1. Our 4 is the slope. Okay? So another way to call the slope in an arithmetic sequence is the common difference. It's telling us how our pattern is changing as I go across the figures. So another word for this is slope. It is the number we add each time to find the next number in the pattern. Please go ahead and write any questions you have about today's video in the space below. See you tomorrow.